Testing, testing, testing. Blah, 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 blah.
Ready, set, go.
It's time for the Coach Amy and Coach Liz show.
A podcast for endurance athletes by two athletes, two coaches, and a physical therapist.
We are your hosts, Coach Amy
And Coach Liz.
coming to you from
Kansas City.
Hello, peeps.
Good morning.
Good morning. Liz makes me start this at 7:45 in the morning. This is what I do. This is my preparation. I roll out of bed. We drink coffee. We spray deodorant on and we brush our teeth. So we're not offensive to you.
That's not much more than what I do, except I have to get in a car.
Oh, yeah, and I'm so appreciative of that. We record here at my house in my little home office. So I'm very lucky. So we are going to talk today. What are we talking about? Oh, first, before we start talking about what we're going to talk about today.
Oh my gosh.
Our last episode that we released last week was on Super Shoes. And, I was like a little nervous to release that episode. I just wanted to trash it because I got really super passionate and fired up about it.
Well, it's good.
But we've had a lot of really good I have a lot of good feedback in the clinic about it this week. And then of course David Hubby, he's like, that was a good episode. And I was like, really? And I was like, and he's like, well, Liz does a good job rating you in. And I was like,
no, he said that.
He did.
Oh, that's so excellent.
He said that. I know. And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember him saying like, you and Liz should do a podcast together.
Well, usually you're the one reining me in, so I feel like that's nice.
It's a exactly. And he knew that would be like that. This recipe would work.
Wow.
These two ingredients.
Wow.
I know. But speaking of Super Shoes, I do have a few little corrections I want to mention, and they're in the show notes for this episode, for the Super Shoe episode. But I would be remiss if I didn't make a correction here because in the podcast episode, I refer to a metatarsal bar, and we talk about that. And it's that term might be quite misleading because in the industry, a better term for it is a 4-foot rocker. So just when we talked about the metatarsal heads and the 4 foot rolling through quickly, that's really referred to a 4-foot rocker because that can be achieved in various ways by different manufacturers. So I kept saying this metatarsal bar, and you're like, yeah, like, can you open it up and see that there's a bar there? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is that it's achieved in various different ways. It could be like a denser layer of foam in that portion of the shoe. It could be that there's a transition from like a firm plate to foam. So there's like this moment arm there, or it could be like curved plate. I mean, there's multiple different ways that could be achieved. So I just wanted to bore you all with the details on that correction.
But the point of that is it is helping your foot roll through that motion. So that's
right.
Okay.
But I just didn't want people going around going to shoe stores and say, does this have a metatarsal bar? Well, no. Well, Amy said there's a metatarsal bar here. So anyway, okay. And then another little correction is I referred to us using Super Shoes in physical therapy for a long, long time. But what I meant is that we used orthopedic shoes and insoles with the same features.
So you're saying that before the Super Shoe was ever a thing in the running community, that you were using a shoe with a similar setup in the physical therapy community to help with foot corrections and foot things going on.
These Super Shoes, running shoes, didn't exist before, and we were putting people in them in these running shoes that they weren't running shoes. They were orthopedic shoes or insole inserts that achieved the same thing. Okay. So, and if all of that is clear as mud, hopefully you just fast forwarded through that. Okay. So on to the topic of the day, which is
illness and running. Is that what we're talking about?
Or just like, should we work out when we're sick?
Should we work out when we're sick? Yeah.
That. And I actually learned this from years ago from a patient who is also a doctor, like a pediatric physician. I learned from him, there's a good rule of thumb. If the symptoms are mild and at the neck or above, like sore throat, sneezing, or like a mild headache, running, and probably the same for like swimming and biking, I would assume, is usually okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that usually running's the first thing that I will eliminate off of a triathlete schedule when they don't feel well, because it's just a lot harder on the body. But like a gentle bike, I feel like is usually a good go-to option if somebody's not feeling great.
Yeah. Okay. If the symptoms are below the neck, so for example, like body chills, aches, and fatigue, running, like, and we're talking not fatigue like workout soreness or workout fatigue like that, but like really overall overwhelming fatigue, then running is a no. And I would think you would say like body chills, like we're not doing any swimming or biking with that one. There's no easy spin for that. Yeah. So running when ill and and any hard workout is going to produce more stress to a body that is already cranking out immune cells and antibodies and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, to get rid of some pesky germ. So you're putting yourself at risk for heat-related illnesses, and you're impairing your body's immune reaction. So you're just like slowing down the ability to heal from that illness, and so you're kind of prolonging stuff too, Okay, so what are we going to do in a scenario where it's like an above the neck scenario, okay? So, if it's severe enough, you might want to take a week off. That would be a lot, right? And you might say this would be easy spin.
Yeah.
Right.
You'd have to be pretty sick.
Yeah. So let's say it's a mild to moderate above the neck kind of thing. Modify your training. So in terms of running, that might look like, decreasing the mileage or the intensity. So you're going to maybe do some easier runs. And then, as always, we're talking about hydration. I mean, work on that and getting the sleep and the rest that you need, and practicing good nutrition. So those are all kind of things we talk about even when you're not sick. Yeah. But those are just even more important.
And it's I have athletes that of course you get sick sometimes during your training, but it's interesting during taper that people tend to, that can surface during taper. And it's really difficult when you're tapering and then you're heading into a race and you feel like you're getting sick. And what I've learned over the years is that, if you really just focus on actually getting better, it's amazing how much you don't lose. Like it might take a couple workouts, but once you're feeling better, if you've let your body heal, and then you kind of get back into, it usually takes a couple workouts to get your body to kind of open back up again, which is normal even after a recovery week, right? Because your body sort of shuts down a little bit, which is normal. Right. Yeah. But you give yourself a couple workouts, and I mean, most of the time, you'll be right back to where you were. And when that happens, even during taper, generally, actually, people race better because they've rested enough.
Right.
So
and you return to your workouts, even if you've been sick, you return to the workouts quicker if you've given that rest. So it's very difficult to do though when you're in the throes of training to think, oh my gosh, I'm missing workout A, B, and C. Oh, training's going to go down the drain. It's the head.
That's where you've got to manage your mental space, and that's your job as an athlete. You have to manage that mental space because if you don't, you're not going to make decisions that are good for your body.
Yeah. And if you have a coach they can help you with that, manage that too. When you start,
depends on how crazy you are. Well, we can't work miracles.
Your coach
people
can try. Okay, let's talk about below the neck germs. So I'm going to throw out an example like bronchitis. So we're talking about going into the air passages and airways and lungs versus stuffed up nose kind of thing. So respiratory viruses can sometimes settle down into those lungs and the primary airways and lead to bronchitis. And you can run with bronchitis because that's one of those things that it lasts and lingers for a long time. In the initial, after taking the initial sort of resting steps that we just talked about, and you're starting to feel better, you can run. When you're still kind of having that.
That is interesting. And because especially right now there is that, whatever that is going around. I've heard God. So I go into a hospital and I do chair massage for the, employees. And somebody told me that they're calling it the 100-day cough or something because it just will not leave. And people feel better, but then they'll cough. But that is one thing as a coach, it's always, it's always a little bit, you get through that initial stuff and then people are feeling better, but they still have that cough. And I find that kind of a tricky area because you don't want it to I'm always a little bit leery of it going into pneumonia or something.
Oh my God. Did you read my notes?
I didn't. I'm just that smart.
You're just so
a wizard.
smart.
I'm a whiz.
Okay. So you're exactly right. So that's the thing, because it's like, oh my God, when I was running, I was coughing and having these coughing fits. And then you're like, running will kind of stir that up. But again, if you're feeling a lot better, and you took those initial resting steps, then it's okay. The cough, the running is going to, stir that up. You may have to stop and walk for a little bit to get over your coughing fit, but that's not like, we're in dangerous territory, we shouldn't be running. And in that state, like if that's really long lingering thing, it might be a good idea to talk to your doctor about possibly an inhaler like the albuterol, those things that you could use pre-run or carry with you on a run to help you open up those airways if you start kind of like hacking like crazy. Another way to help is to, like, especially in the cold right now, we are in the cold, and that cold air can also stir up the coughing.
Yeah, what is that? So even if you're not sick, if you go out and you run and like, I used to get it a lot more than I do now, but like you'd go out and you'd run in that really cold air, and then you'd come back in and you'd have like, I called it like a runner's cough, which is, you're not sick. It's just
you're constricting your airways with that cold, and then you get back into the heat, and then they're opening back up. Maybe it's that transition. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Anyway, what can we do? You can put a little neck gaiter over your mouth, or the balaclava. Did I say it right?
Yeah, I think
it's not the dessert. Anyway, to kind of cover your airways a little bit and add a little bit of humidity, because it's kind of that dry air with that cold air also. But let's fast forward just a little bit into that pneumonia question, because there are some situations where it is dangerous to run. And there's lines that you should not cross. And of course, these are best dealt on case by case basis. But if you're having like this bronchitis and this coughing, and you're developing chest pain with breathing or a fever, that's when it's time to go to the doctor, because then you are talking about a bacterial infection like pneumonia. So don't be like pushing through like, well, Amy and Liz said it was okay to run this cough. But like if you're having, like this, chest pain with breathing or a fever, but let's stop and let's go to the doctor. Okay, so it was so funny because you and I were emailing back and forth like, what are we going to talk about this week? And this topic of illness with training came up, and literally, ping, I get this message, and one of my athletes, he's in Training Peaks, he has written this thing, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to go through him because he's a case.
Mm-hmm. He's a case.
There's a case study. He says, "Hi, Coach Amy. I came down with a bug. Stress readings shot up. Heart rate is up, slight fever." He refers to his HRV, which is heart rate variability, is really low, and my training readiness went down to 1. That's on a scale of 1 to 100. So this is like stuff that his Garmin watch is telling him. And he's saying, his training readiness was down for 3 days. The body battery stat was at 5 to 10 for a high all week, even after sleeping at night. So I want to pause there for a second, because that's a lot of data. That's a lot of information. And this athlete is, we lovingly refer to them as data junkies. I mean, They really like that information. Yeah. And sometimes we need to say, well, okay.
How do you feel?
What is how is your body feeling? What are the symptoms that are going along with this data?
You feel like a champ right now? Because it doesn't sound like it.
Right. Well, and also like, it depends on when you're wearing that device, right? Like, how does it know everything? Like, my Apple Watch thinks I am a slug and that I lay on the couch all the time.
I mean, so to be honest, like the thing that I pay the most attention to with this is that heart rate, because I do find
heart rate variability, or just heart rate in general with exercise.
Yes, but like I have almost all my athletes using heart rate stuff, so it's a pretty consistent metric, and I get a pretty good. I have enough information that like I can tell when it's off for somebody.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, what you'll see is that like the heart rate will just be a little bit elevated for like their effort output, and so that switches a little bit. And so like it may be that I notice that for a few days, and then all of a sudden they get sick. So I've learned that that's sort of a red flag, and like this other stuff is too. But I've learned that heart rate, if you have a good frame of reference for your athlete and you have good heart rate data, which is fairly easy and consistent to get, that's a pretty good, this other stuff can come in.
That like you're overtraining or fatigued or becoming ill.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's other, you're pulling in other data points with it, you know, but like, your athlete, and that's one of the, but in terms of like, you're taking in their life factors and all the other stuff that you sort of know that's not being measured by the watch. But in terms of like a data point that is reading consistently enough, I feel like that elevated heart rate is not unusual a few days before somebody actually gets sick. So this other stuff is good, but sometimes it's like you can get a misreading or people don't know what to make of it. So that heart rate, I think is helpful.
Yeah. So then he goes on to say, I guess I really only missed one 4-mile run, but I'm just coming out of this illness today and not sure if I should rest today or try to get my 3 miles in today and stay with the 6 miles that I have set for the weekend. Garmin still says, so he uses a Garmin watch, but there's these kind of data come from other smartwatches as well. Still says training readiness is low, but it is now orange instead of red. And it says, take it easy instead of focus on recovery. So, I mean, that's like good information. He's out there on his own, but he still doesn't really know what exactly to do with that information.
Yeah.
And, also, I love that he did put the part about how he's feeling and what his symptoms are. And he said, I still have a bit of congestion in the ears and sinus now, but getting better. So to me, I read that and I'm like, oh, okay, that's above the neck. Mm-hmm. He's beginning to feel better. But looking at kind of his data and when this illness occurred and where he is in his training, my recommendation for him is, okay, let's not do the 3-mile run tomorrow. Let's do a walk and then see how we respond. Like, how do we feel if we just do a walk? And this gentleman is not a triathlete. He's running.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start back with a few easy short distance runs. So we're going to, we'll try like a 3 to 4 mile in a couple days if that walk went really well, and then I'm betting the data on his watch goes back up to green and says, you're ready. And then so it's nice for him. He's got this, a coach to back him up. He's learning what this information is saying. And then he also has the data. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's just
basically you're saying don't do the 6 miles on the weekend. Let's take an easy day and take a few steps to ease back in and then see how you feel.
Yeah. And also, the 6 mile was going to be his quote unquote long run because that is his long run right now.
Yeah.
Where, for someone else, this might be, we're looking at a 10 or a 20 mile run. Like, what are you training for?
Well, and it's interesting because, I don't know who this guy is, but I was like, okay, so what I took from this is I'm like, well, so he is at a point in whatever he's training for that, he's doing 3 and 4 mile runs during the week and that, his longer run is at 6 miles right now. And so what I'm looking at there is, the 6 miles is, presumably his longer run is on the weekend, and a longer run is going to be a bigger ask for somebody regardless of how, and so if you're looking at what is his body ready for in terms of his stress load, you can assume that 6 miles for him at where he is in the training is going to be a bigger ask for his body. And given what it says here, it's probably not, something his body needs right now to do something that's a little bit more stressful. So bring it down a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And a rule of thumb you could use is, say his long run was 10, let's go half of that.
Yeah.
Let's go 5. Or if it was 20, let's go 10.
Yeah.
Right. And again, case by case basis, but that's just kind of a rule of thumb to use and kind of a way to get your headspace and into what you would be actually a healthier way to get back to it. Do we have anything else to say about this topic? How about swimming with gook in your nose and stuff? Like, how do you feel about, like, is there, you talked about bike and easy spin. What do you feel about something with, like, bronchitis, or for example?
Yeah, that's so hard. My brain is tripping over it because I'm like, it's so different for triathletes versus if you're like working like what I would answer for a swimmer.
Okay, so let's talk about it as terms of swimming training, the swimming part of your workout when you're training a triathlete.
Well, because they're only in the pool, like, usually it depends on the triathlete 2 to 4 times a week. So let me just, I mean,
okay, when I was training, it was 2 a week, wasn't it? Maybe? Or
surely not. I didn't let you get away with that. Surely not.
Maybe at certain points in the training, it was 3, but man, I never did 4. I would have revolted.
Well, you see, people? Do you see?
What she has to deal with.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right.
It's so, I don't know. I don't have like a hard and fast rule because swimming, I mean, you can go in and because I'm thinking about it in terms of like stress load on the body. And so, you can get in and swimming can be a very gentle, easy recovery deal. I mean, if you're like, having a snot fest, no, you're not going to go get in the pool, right? I mean, and not like maybe you can do it, but you don't want to be exposing other people to that. So, I don't know.
Okay. So I have been in the pool and I don't think I've seen any triathletes doing this, but it's community pools, right? And there's other people, and I have seen some like,
you don't even want to know what people do in those pools.
Oh my God, I know, and I can see the bottom of the pool and what's on the bottom of the pool. Used Band-Aids and brown things that I'm like, oh my God, what is that? But okay, but then also like people like blowing snot out of their nose into the pool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes my stomach turn, and I'm like, there's chlorine in the pool. There's chlorine in the pool. They've got the pH. It's killing it, right? And I'm like, I don't think it's killing everything. And I just want to get out and be like, nope, I'm out. I can't think about it. When I get there, I'm such a germaphobe. I have to just turn off that part of my brain in order to do the workout.
I will spare you the details of what else happens in that pool.
No, please.
I will. I'm not going to say it. If you're a swimmer, you know.
No. Oh, never tell me. I will never. I won't get back in. So here I just thought of something because I've noticed that in open water swimming, like there's some area lakes that we have here where I'll just get stirred up with I don't know if it's like algae or whatever is in there. And so if I already had kind of a cold or some kind of gook that I was going, that would really throw me over the edge. Because when I'm swimming in the open water can kind of,
yes, and
create sneezing, and at least for me.
It does. And I always worry a little bit about getting dirty water in ears that might be, if they're inflamed or like if you're like dealing with a sinus thing or your ears are a little bit off and then you put in dirty lake water, and just, so I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel
but wait, like, you told me one time to put in, the wax or the earplugs.
You can. Yeah. If your ears can handle that, like if they're not sore.
Yeah. And then one thing that I noticed, because I did have some, and I don't know if it's just, I was allergic to, it was Shawnee Mission Lake. And I had it was awful. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to use what's that, saline rinse? And I would train at the Ozarks too on the weekends, at like the Ozarks, and it was really helpful to use that nasal rinse. And I did that anytime I did open water, and it helped. I did it immediately after, and I also we learned this as a trick just growing up at the lake. And that is using a mixture solution of alcohol and vinegar, like a half and half, which can help also dry up the water that's in there, but also...
And you mean in your ears?
Oh, yeah.
Like, wow.
That's a good clarification. Oh, my God.
Goodness.
If we had put this in the can and then released it, I would have had to come up the next podcast and be like, correction. Another correction. Homemade eardrops with alcohol, half hydrogen peroxide.
And you can also buy that in the pharmacy. That's
like swimmer's ear. Does the swimmer's ear just have alcohol, or does it also have the peroxide?
I don't know. It's mostly alcohol. The only reason I don't make my own is just because I have a ton of ear problems and I'm afraid to make my own. So I just buy it from the pharmacy, and I know it's mostly alcohol. I don't know what else is in there. But anything like that will work.
Because the peroxide helps with the sort of like the germs instead of
peroxide or vinegar. Do you use vinegar or peroxide?
Well, you could do either one. Vinegar or peroxide. I think I like the peroxide.
Probably.
But if you're one of those people who had tubes in their ears for, go with an
Either's
over-the-counter
fine.
one.
I think most people make their own. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just...
But you're just, that's what you would do. Okay, do we have anything else to add about this?
No.
All right, be kind to your body.
Yeah.
Don't overstress it when you're sick. There you go.
It's kind of it.
That's an easy. The podcast could have
Drink
been
a
2
lot of
seconds
water.
long.
I know.
Do you guys, what are your experiences with having illnesses and coming back from them and getting back to your workouts? And how do you feel about it? Leave your comments in our comment section.
Do you blow your nose in the pool?
No. If you do, which pool do you go to? So Amy doesn't go. Where can you leave your comments and where can you see our show notes? At the Coach Amy and CoachLizShow.com.
Thanks so much for listening. And remember,
We are in this together.
Until next time.